Hey kids, how you doing? Danny B here. So I'm gonna follow up on the last lesson I videoed of. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. So this would be the second installment to learning your fretboard, kids. Um, there's many ways that are fun to learn your fretboard. Basically, just kind of get the little road maps to your guitar, whether it's an electric guitar or an acoustic guitar, doesn't really matter, it's all the same, note-wise. Obviously it's a different feel, strings are different on an electric and on an acoustic. Sometimes the neck will feel different, the body is tinier, so on and so forth. But the notes on the fretboard are all the same. So here is another ideal that I have, or that I kind of use to that I learned the fretboard with, and also that I teach some of my students how to memorize the fretboard. So basically it's all about finding ways to shrink the fretboard into a manageable entity in your brain. Instead of looking at it and seeing 6 strings or 6 lines and then 20 some frets, and you look at all these notes saying, oh my goodness, there's a lot of notes. But really there's only 12 of them, folks. So this ideal for to learn the fretboard, we're going to be using octaves. So an octave, if you don't already know this, maybe look up some other music theory to tell you what the octave is. But basically, if you go through the 12 notes chromatically, from E all the way to the next E is a full octave. So you can either use the chromatic scale to get to that octave, or a major scale or a minor scale. Either way, you will find the octave eventually. But that's on one string. So linearly finding your octave, like we did in the last lesson, chromatically with that little exercise, that's the one way. The other way would be to go across the fretboard. So jumping string to string, finding your octaves. So, for example, E. Let's take a look at this E note right here, that open 6th string. Okay. Now I'm just going to quickly pretend to fret that note just behind the nut. So pretending that the nut is a fret. So I'm going to pretend that I'm fretting that E note. Okay? Now, with my 3rd finger, my ring finger, I'm going to jump a string and skip a fret. So skip a string, skip a fret, and you've just found your octave. So it's another E of a higher value of this E. Slightly out of tune. There we go. So that's the shape. Now I'm going to move that chromatically, or one half step forward to F. So now I've got the 1st fret with my 1st finger, and I've got the 3rd fret with my ring finger on the 4th string. So again, I'm still keeping that shape of skipping a string, skipping a fret. There's my F octave. Okay. So basically, if you keep that shape on those 2 strings, you're going to have the octave equivalent of the lower note you're playing, or vice versa, the higher note you're playing. Octaves. And they've got a cool doubling effect sound to them. All right. So there's other shapes, octave shapes, that maybe we can explore a little bit later on. But for now, we're going to take a look at that shape. So let's stick to the 1st fret for a second. Okay, so on that string set, which is 6 and 4, okay, 1st finger on 6, ring finger on 4, we've got F. I'm going to keep that shape, but move both fingers up a string respectively. So now I've got B flat with my 1st finger, and I've got B flat with my ring finger. Okay, same shape. Now, for those 2 string sets, that was the octave shape. Okay. Now we're going to move my 1st finger on the D string, or on the 4th string, and my 4th finger on the 2nd string. But this time the rule changes. I'm still skipping one string. Okay, so these two fingers are one string apart, but I'm also shifting my pinky an extra fret, okay? And that's basically because of that B string being tuned in thirds as opposed to fourths, like everything else. So again, I'm not going to get into that right now, but this is the octave shape for this string set. So 4 and 2. Okay, now we're going to stick to that same shape for the next two strings. So 3 and 1. And that's the octave shape there. Okay. Okay, so now if you're wondering, well, okay, how do I learn my fretboard like this? Well, kids, let's say that your first finger finds its way on the 5th fret of the 6th string. Okay, now you've played that note, I don't know, maybe 500 times in your lifetime so far. So by now, after the 499th time, you should know that this note is A. Okay, now with that new little trick I just showed you, skip a string, skip a fret. Now you've got two A's. So you technically kind of shrunk the fretboard a little bit in the sense that, well, you know where the A is on that 6th string. Now you know where the A is on the 4th string. Okay, just 2 frets higher than that 5th fret on the 7th fret. Okay, so now I'm going to come and grab this note here that I'm holding on with my 3rd finger. I'm going to grab my 1st finger on there. A again, A. Okay, now to go grab the octave on the next 2 strings over, I've got to add 2 frets. So it's this shape. So now I know where that A is as well on the 2nd string. So A, all within 4 or 5 frets, okay? Now, if you guys know or realize or are aware that your E string, if it's A on this string, 5th fret, it's going to be A on the 1st string as well, right? So there's a different octave shape. This one here basically takes you on 1 fret, you can play 2 of the same notes. But these are 2 octaves apart. These are 1 octave apart, and you can hear that that one's higher than that, my middle one that I'm holding with my ring finger here. Okay? So basically, you could play octaves that are 2 octaves apart on the 1st and 6th string, all on the same fret. Okay, that's got a really cool doubling effect as well, except they're 2 octaves apart instead of 1. Okay, so now in that one little area between 5 and 10th fret, you've got 4 A's. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just in that one spot. Okay, so that's the first letter of the alphabet, or the musical alphabet, A. Meaning that if you repeat the process for all the other notes in the musical alphabet, the alphabet, which spans between A and G, and all the accidentals or the in-between notes, you can basically learn the whole fretboard pretty quick. I would kind of pick a note that you really like to play. Let's pretend it's A or G. Grab that octave shape, right? Those two. So you've got the first shape that spans 1 fret, or skips a fret, skips a string, and then you got the one that skips 2 frets and still skips 1 string. Okay, and then of course, if this is G over here, right, it's going to be G on the same fret on the 1st string as well. And this is, you know, as long as your guitar is tuned properly, that'll be the case. So there you go, kids. Octaves. Learn them, admire them, feel them under your fingers, hear them, cherish them with all your heart and your whole being, and you will be rewarded, I promise. This is Danny B signing off. Till next time, keep on rocking.